to look to the events of their day. His words were never meant to draw the people out of time or out of the reality of the present moment into some sort of spiritual cocoon. His words do not say, endure your pain now because later you will win heaven. Quite the contrary. His words are an imperative to look to the moment at hand, to keep your eyes wide open because God is coming. Jesus says, stand up, raise your heads, look around you, see, be alert, and get involved because your redemption is drawing near. This very moment contains something new that God is doing. And so we're also being asked, along with Luke's first century community, to stand up and raise up our heads, to look and see and be alert, to see the signs of God at work, breaking into our world in new ways, even this very day. Now, I can name a couple of signs that you might want to consider today. This Advent is in time a post-Sandy moment. Sandy's roaring waves were indeed apocalyptic, and many have called them a wake-up call about climate change. So maybe that's a sign that we should be paying attention to and consider this Advent moment as a time to consider God's call for us to care for our fragile planet. For other signs, Advent 2012 is a post-election moment. And no matter the morning after pundits who proclaim the status quo results, no matter what your party, the racial diversity of the new electorate, the election of the most diverse House in history, the repudiation of big money, and the support of same-gender marriage are all signs of disruption of the status quo. In them we might see God breaking into our world. We might see them as signs of justice breaking in, signs worth heralding in this new season of Advent as we prepare for the coming of the ever-new. This morning there is one other sign of God breaking into our world and disrupting the old order and inviting us into the new that I would ask you to consider here. This is a sign for Gethsemane. God has seen it fit that we are now joined together as pastor and people who can understand the mind of God. But that is where we are. God has brought us together and has joined us together for the journey that lies before us. So how are we to interpret that sign? How does it invite us to let the power of God work in us and through us so that we can engage our world with renewed zeal and compassion? If you see this linking together as only the completion of your 3-year search for a new pastor, and now consider that to be done so that you can sit back and wait for the new pastor to bring about renewal of life for Gethsemane, then guess what? Nothing will change. And if I see it only as the end of my search to come out of retirement, and I sit back and simply go through the motions of being your pastor, guess what? Nothing will change. But if together we see it as the beginning of God doing something new in our midst, and as a call to action to let God's power work through us and in us, then who knows what God has in mind for our joined together future. So this morning I say to you, together, as pastor and deacon, together, let us watch. Let us beware. Let us stay alert and open ourselves up to the power of God working in us and through us. Together, let us see what God has in mind for us as we become participants in God's transforming this old world into God's blessed new world.